Everyone saw just a child traveling alone. Flight attendants offered juice with patronizing smiles. Passengers spoke to her like she was simple. But when hostile aircraft threatened their Boeing 777 and F-22 Raptors scrambled to intercept, the quiet 10-year-old in seat 17A revealed she carried the legendary Viper bloodline that would save them all. Before watching full story, comment below, also like and subscribe for more stories. The big Boeing 777 airplane flew smoothly through the blue sky at 35,000 feet. Sunlight came through the small windows as 287 passengers sat in their seats for the 5-hour flight from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. The plane's two big engines made a quiet humming sound as they pushed the aircraft eastward at 550 miles per hour. In seat 17A next to the window sat a small girl. Her name was Emma Rodriguez and she was 10 years old. She had long brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore a blue hoodie, jeans, and white sneakers. On her lap was a tablet showing a cartoon movie about talking animals. Around her seat were the normal things kids carry when they travel: coloring books, colored pencils, headphones with cartoon characters on them, and a small backpack covered in airplane stickers. Flight attendant Sarah Miller walked down the aisle with a big smile. She had worked for the airline for 8 years and had helped hundreds of kids who traveled alone. She carried a cup of apple juice and a package of cookies. She bent down to Emma's eye level. "Hi there, sweetie. I'm Sarah, and I'm going to take extra special care of you today. Are you excited to see your grandma in Washington?" Sarah's voice was very cheerful, the way adults talk when they think they're speaking to someone who needs things explained simply. Emma looked up from her tablet and paused the movie. Her dark brown eyes looked at Sarah with a calmness that seemed unusual for such a young face, but the flight attendant didn't notice. "Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing her. Thank you for the juice and cookies," Emma said politely. This was exactly what Sarah expected from a well-behaved child traveling alone. "Now, remember, if you need anything at all, you just press this little button right here, okay?" Sarah pointed to the call button very carefully, like she was explaining something complicated to a baby. "And if you need to use the bathroom, I'll walk with you so you don't get lost. Sometimes these big airplanes can be confusing for little ones." "I understand. Thank you for explaining everything," Emma replied. Sarah smiled and moved down the aisle to check on other passengers. The businessman in seat 17B, Mr. Robert Chin, looked over at Emma with a kind smile. He had been working on his laptop for an hour, reading sales reports. Now he closed his computer and turned toward the young girl. "That's a pretty cool tablet you have there. What movie are you watching?" Robert asked, thinking he was making friendly conversation with a child. "It's about forest animals who have to work together to save their home. The animation is really detailed. They must have used advanced computer software to create the lighting effects," Emma answered. Robert was surprised by her big words but thought she was just repeating something an adult had told her. "Wow, you know some big words. Are you good at school?" "I do okay. I like learning about different things," Emma said and then turned back to her tablet. Behind them, in seat 18C, an elderly woman named Mrs. Dorothy Walsh had been watching the conversation. She leaned forward and tapped Robert on the shoulder. Her gray hair was perfectly styled. "Isn't she just precious? Traveling all by herself like such a big girl. When I was her age, children never flew anywhere without their parents." "Times certainly have changed," Mrs. Walsh said with a warm smile. "She seems very mature for her age," Robert agreed, then went back to his laptop. The flight continued smoothly. In the cockpit, Captain Mike Torres and First Officer Lisa Park watched their instruments. They had both flown this route hundreds of times. The weather looked clear. Everything was working perfectly. It was a beautiful Tuesday morning for flying. Captain Torres was 51 years old and had been a pilot for 23 years. He had logged over 18,000 flight hours without a single major problem. "Beautiful day for flying," Torres said to his first officer as they passed over the Rocky Mountains. The snowy peaks were visible far below. "Couldn't ask for better conditions," Park agreed. "We might even get there a few minutes early." Neither pilot paid special attention to the passenger list. Kids traveling alone were normal on long flights. The cabin crew handled all their care. From the cockpit, Emma Rodriguez was just one of 287 people on their airplane. Lunch service began. Flight attendants moved through the aisles with carts full of food and drinks. Sarah stopped at Emma's row with a special tray made for kids traveling alone. It had smaller portions and looked more fun. "I brought you chicken nuggets with mac and cheese, plus some fruit and a chocolate chip cookie. And here's some milk to go with it," Sarah said, putting the tray on Emma's table carefully. "This looks very good." "Thank you for taking such good care of me," Emma said. Her gratitude seemed real and mature, exactly what made flight attendants feel good about their jobs. As Emma ate her lunch, she sometimes looked out the window at the ground below. Her eyes stopped on military bases and airports in a way that might seem curious, but the passengers around her were busy with their own meals, books, or getting ready for afternoon naps. What none of them knew was that Emma's quick looks through the window showed deep knowledge about airplanes and military operations that would surprise every adult on the flight. Emma came from a family where military flying was everything. Her grandfather, Colonel James Viper Rodriguez, earned his famous nickname during 3 combat tours in Vietnam. His smart tactics and brave leadership saved many American lives. Her father, Major David Rodriguez, was an F-16 pilot who flew combat missions over Iraq and Afghanistan. Her uncle, Lieutenant Colonel Mark Rodriguez, taught at the Air Force's best pilot school. The Rodriguez family dinner table didn't have normal conversations about sports or TV shows. Instead, Emma grew up hearing detailed talks about how planes fly, weapon systems, emergency procedures, and the quick thinking that separates good pilots from great ones. Emma had absorbed this knowledge naturally, like learning a language. She had inherited the Rodriguez family's natural understanding of aviation. While other passengers saw only a well-behaved little girl quietly eating lunch and watching movies, Emma knew things that could be crucial in situations most adults couldn't imagine. She knew how to read airplane instruments, understand radio communications, recognize different aircraft by their shapes, and think through emergency situations. This was the systematic approach her family used to be excellent in the world's most demanding flying environments. As the Boeing 777 continued east, none of the 287 people on board suspected that the quiet child in seat 17A might be the most knowledgeable person about aviation on the entire aircraft. That knowledge remained hidden beneath her innocent appearance and polite behavior, like a secret weapon she didn't even know she had. Lunch service finished. The afternoon part of the flight began with passengers settling in for the final hours before arriving in Washington. Some people read books. Others worked on laptops or slept. A few talked about business or family vacations. In the cockpit, Captain Torres and First Officer Park continued their professional routine of watching instruments, talking to air traffic control, and managing the countless small details that keep a modern airliner safe. Their experience created a smooth partnership that handled normal operations almost automatically. At 2:47 p.m. Eastern Time, everything changed. United 847, this is Washington Center. Be advised, we're tracking multiple unidentified aircraft on an intercept course with your position. Stand by for possible course change. The air traffic controller's voice had unusual tension that immediately got both pilots' attention. Captain Torres sat up straighter. His relaxed posture was replaced by alert focus. Washington Center, United 847. Can you give us more details on those aircraft? Are they military? United 847, negative. These appear to be civilian aircraft that are not responding to radio calls and are not following their flight paths. We're scrambling interceptors to investigate. Maintain current heading and altitude until further notice. The words "scrambling interceptors" sent a chill through both pilots. After September 11, 2001, unidentified aircraft that don't respond to radio calls trigger immediate military responses to prevent another terrorist attack. First Officer Park checked her instruments more carefully, looking at their position, fuel, and nearby airports. Mike, if those are hostile aircraft, we need to be ready to take emergency action or make an emergency landing. Already thinking the same thing, Lisa. Keep monitoring the radios. This could get complicated very quickly, Torres said. In the main cabin, passengers didn't know anything was wrong. The flight attendants hadn't been told yet. Normal sounds of conversation and electronic devices continued. Emma kept reading her book while occasionally looking out the window. Her trained eye automatically scanned the sky for other aircraft, even though she had no reason to expect trouble. United 847, Washington Center. Those unidentified aircraft are now within 50 miles of your position and appear to be civilian jets flying in formation. We're unable to establish radio contact. F-22 Raptors from Andrews Air Force Base are airborne and heading to intercept. The mention of F-22 Raptors, America's most advanced stealth fighters, confirmed that military commanders thought this was a serious threat. The Raptor isn't used for simple problems. Its presence meant someone at the Pentagon believed there was real danger. Captain Torres made a decision. Lisa, I'm going to make an announcement to the crew and passengers. They need to know we might have to take emergency action. Good call. I'll keep monitoring the radios and start reviewing emergency descent procedures, Park said. Torres activated the speaker system. His voice was calm but serious. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We've been told by air traffic control that there are unidentified aircraft in our area that are not responding to radio calls. As a safety measure, military fighters have been sent to investigate these aircraft. We may need to change our course or altitude suddenly, so please make sure your seat belts are fastened and stay seated. Flight attendants, please secure the cabin and prepare for possible sudden movements." The announcement changed the relaxed mood in the cabin immediately. Passengers who were reading, sleeping, or working suddenly focused completely on the danger their captain just described. Conversations stopped as people tried to understand what they'd just heard. Sarah Martinez felt her heart race. In 8 years of flying, she'd never heard anything like this. Medical emergencies, bad weather, and mechanical problems were part of the job. But the possibility of hostile aircraft created a completely different kind of fear. Emma, however, reacted differently than the adults around her. Instead of showing confusion and worry like everyone else, she closed her book and began listening carefully to sounds that most people wouldn't notice. Her family background taught her to recognize subtle changes in engine noise and other signs that revealed what was happening. United 847, this is Raptor Lead. We have visual contact with the unidentified aircraft. 3 civilian jets in tight formation about 2 miles ahead of your position and closing fast. They're not responding to our radio calls or visual signals. The F-22 pilot's voice was calm but confirmed everyone's worst fears. Unknown aircraft approaching a commercial airliner while ignoring all communication was exactly what security experts worried about. Raptor Lead, United 847. What do you recommend? Should we change course? Torres asked. United 847, maintain current heading for now. We're moving to intercept those aircraft. Be prepared for immediate action on our command. In seat 17A, Emma's sharp hearing picked up radio transmissions that most passengers couldn't hear. Her family's training taught her to recognize different types of radio communications, and she realized the situation was more serious than the captain's announcement indicated. Washington Center, Raptor Lead. The unidentified aircraft just changed course directly toward the airliner. I repeat, they are now on a collision course with United 847. This transmission shocked the cockpit as Torres and Park realized they faced an immediate threat. United 847, execute emergency descent immediately. Turn left heading 180 and descend to flight level 250. Raptor flight is moving to intercept. Torres didn't wait. Lisa, emergency descent checklist. Now. The Boeing 777 suddenly pitched down into a steep dive that threw passengers forward in their seats and caused overhead bins to rattle loudly. The massive aircraft shook as it went faster than normal while turning sharply left. In the main cabin, panic spread as passengers realized they were in real danger. People who had never been in combat or aviation emergencies struggled to understand what was happening. Sarah activated the speaker system, her training taking over despite her fear. Ladies and gentlemen, we are taking emergency action as directed by air traffic control. Please make sure your seat belts are tight and get in emergency position. Put your head down and hold your ankles. But as she moved through the cabin to help passengers, Sarah noticed something strange about the young girl in seat 17A. Instead of showing terror like everyone else, Emma appeared calm and focused, listening carefully to radio communications that Sarah could barely hear over the noise. United 847 Raptor Lead. The unidentified aircraft are matching your descent and turn. They're still coming at you. You need to go lower and faster. Roger, Raptor Lead. Descending to flight level 200, Torres responded. The Boeing 777 went into an even steeper dive that pushed the aircraft and passengers to their limits. The stress created groaning sounds from the plane that terrified people who had never heard an airplane being pushed this hard. At this critical moment, when 287 lives hung in the balance, the 10-year-old girl in seat 17A did something that shocked everyone. Emma stood up despite the steep angle and walked to Sarah with confidence that seemed completely wrong for a frightened child. The pilots need to know that those aircraft are probably trying to force us down to a specific altitude where surface-to-air missiles would work best. The F-22s can't protect us if we go too low because they'll lose their radar advantage, Emma said. Her voice carried technical knowledge that left Sarah speechless. Sweetie, you need to sit down and fasten your seatbelt. The pilots know what they're doing, Sarah said, thinking a scared child was trying to help with ideas that didn't make sense. But Emma's next words changed everything. My grandfather is Colonel James Viper Rodriguez. He wrote the tactical manual that those F-22 pilots are probably following right now. I know what I'm talking about, and we're in more danger than anyone realizes. The mention of the call sign Viper stopped Sarah completely. Even flight attendants who weren't military experts had heard that famous name. United 847, this is Raptor 2. We're detecting multiple radar signatures on the ground that look like surface-to-air missile systems. Those aircraft may be trying to push you into a kill zone. The F-22 pilot's words confirmed exactly what Emma just predicted. Sarah realized that the quiet child she'd been treating like any other kid had knowledge that could save everyone's life. Can you help us? Sarah asked, her training overriding her disbelief. Take me to the cockpit. The pilots need information that only someone with my family's background can give them, Emma said. Sarah made a decision that went against every airline rule but followed her instinct in a crisis. She led Emma toward the cockpit, past passengers who were too scared to notice what was happening. In the cockpit, Torres and Park were struggling with radio communications, emergency moves, and system checks that pushed them to their limit. When Sarah entered with Emma, Torres thought the flight attendant was bringing him a frightened child who needed comfort. This isn't a good time for passenger visits, Torres said without looking away from his instruments. Captain, she says her grandfather is Colonel Viper Rodriguez, and she knows things about this situation that might help us, Sarah explained quickly. The call sign Viper got Torres's immediate attention. Every American military pilot knew that name. He turned to look at Emma with new eyes, seeing not just a child but potentially someone who could save his aircraft. What's your name, sweetheart? Torres asked gently. Emma Rodriguez, sir. Viper is my grandfather. My father is Major David Rodriguez, and my uncle is Lieutenant Colonel Mark Rodriguez at weapons school. I've been learning about aviation and tactics my whole life. United 847, Raptor lead, you need to level off at your current altitude and turn right to heading 090. We're engaging the hostile aircraft now. Emma listened to the transmission and immediately saw a critical problem. Captain, that heading will take us directly over the suspected missile sites. The F-22s are probably trying to draw the hostile aircraft away from us, but they're sending us into different danger. Torres stared at Emma with growing amazement as he realized her analysis made perfect sense. What do you recommend? He asked. Turn left to heading 270 and keep descending to flight level 180. That will keep us away from the ground threats while giving the Raptors room to fight. Also, increase speed to maximum safe velocity. Time and distance are our best protection right now. United 847, this is Raptor lead. Be advised, we have engaged the hostile aircraft. You are clear to resume normal navigation at pilot's discretion. But Emma shook her head urgently. Don't trust that transmission, Captain. The voice pattern doesn't match the previous communications. Someone's blocking the frequencies and sending false information. Torres and Park looked at each other as they realized the young girl beside them had situational awareness that exceeded their own experience. How can you tell? Park asked. My family taught me to recognize voice stress patterns and radio tricks. That wasn't the same pilot who's been talking to us. And the background noise shows the transmission came from ground level, not from an F-22 at high altitude. At that moment, the real Raptor lead came back on the radio. United 847, disregard the previous transmission. That was not from our flight. Hostiles are still active and trying radio deception. Turn left to heading 270 and continue descent as you see fit. Jesus Christ, Torres whispered as he realized Emma's knowledge just stopped him from flying into a trap that could have destroyed his aircraft. United 847, Raptor lead. Can you confirm your passenger list includes any family members of Colonel James Rodriguez, call sign Viper? The question came from the F-22 flight leader who had apparently heard their radio talks. Torres pressed his microphone. Raptor lead, affirmative. We have Viper's granddaughter aboard. She's been giving us tactical advice that has already saved our aircraft. Copy that, United 847. Please know that Colonel Rodriguez is a legend in our community. His tactical innovations are still taught at every level of military aviation. If his granddaughter has his knowledge and instincts, you should listen to everything she tells you. The F-22 pilot's words made it clear that Emma Rodriguez was not just any child, but the descendant of a military aviation hero. Emma, what should we do next? Torres asked, fully accepting that a 10-year-old girl had become his most valuable advisor. The hostile aircraft are probably going to try one more attack. They'll come from below and behind where our radar is weakest. Tell the Raptors to position themselves for a rear attack while we do a climbing turn to the right that will hide us from ground sensors. Raptor lead, United 847. Our tactical advisor recommends you prepare for hostile approach from our 6 o'clock low position while we execute climbing right turn to confuse ground radar. United 847, your tactical advisor knows her stuff. We're moving now. Execute your turn on my mark. 3, 1, a mark. The Boeing 777 entered a climbing right turn that showed Captain Torres's skill as he pushed the commercial airliner through moves it was never designed to do. Passengers experienced forces that made them feel like they were on the world's scariest roller coaster. But Emma remained calm in the cockpit, continuing to help keep everyone alive. Raptor lead, we have missile lock on 2 of the hostile aircraft. Engaging now. The radio call was followed by distant explosions visible through the cockpit windows as the F-22 Raptors destroyed the aircraft trying to attack the airliner. The sight of those fireballs served as a harsh reminder of how close 287 innocent people came to dying. United 847, Raptor lead. Hostile aircraft have been neutralized. You are cleared to resume normal navigation to your destination. Outstanding job by your tactical advisor. Please pass along our respect and admiration for the Rodriguez family legacy. As the danger passed and the Boeing 777 returned to normal flight, Captain Torres turned to Emma with an expression of gratitude and amazement. Emma, I need you to know that you saved every life on this airplane today. Your knowledge and quick thinking prevented a disaster that would have been terrible. My grandfather always taught me that knowledge is only valuable if you use it to help other people, Emma replied with the modesty that marked her as a true representative of the Rodriguez family traditions. First Officer Park shook her head in wonder. I've been flying for 15 years and I've never seen anything like what just happened. How did a 10-year-old girl know more about tactical aviation than 2 professional airline pilots? Growing up in my family means learning about aviation the way other kids learn about baseball or video games. My grandfather, my father, and my uncle have been teaching me since I could walk. They always said knowledge might save my life someday, but I never imagined it would save other people's lives too. Sarah, who had been listening with growing amazement, finally spoke. Emma, I owe you an apology. I treated you like just another child who needed watching, but you're the one who ended up protecting all of us. You don't need to apologize. You were doing your job and you did it well. When I needed help getting to the cockpit, you trusted me even though it seemed crazy. That took courage too, Emma said. As the Boeing 777 continued toward Washington, D.C., word spread through the cabin about what actually happened and how the quiet little girl in seat 17A turned out to be the key to everyone's survival. Passengers who had smiled at her kindly or offered her snacks now looked at her with awe and respect. Robert Chin, the businessman who had made small talk about her movie, came to her seat with obvious embarrassment and real gratitude. Emma, I want to thank you for what you did today. I also want to apologize for talking to you like you were just an ordinary kid. I had no idea who you really were. I am just an ordinary kid in most ways, Emma replied with a smile. I like movies and books and video games just like other people my age. But my family taught me that we all have special knowledge about something. And when the time comes to use that knowledge to help others, we have to be ready. Mrs. Dorothy Walsh, the elderly passenger who had said how precious Emma looked, wiped tears from her eyes. Dear, your family should be so proud of you. You have wisdom and courage that most adults never develop. They taught me that courage isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what needs to be done even when you are scared. I was terrified during that whole emergency, but I knew I had to help if I could. As the aircraft made its final approach to Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, Captain Torres made one final announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain with an update on our earlier emergency. I want to tell you that we owe our lives today to one of our passengers, 10-year-old Emma Rodriguez, the granddaughter of the legendary Air Force Colonel James Viper Rodriguez. When our aircraft was threatened by hostile aircraft, Emma provided expert knowledge that helped us avoid disaster and allowed military fighters to protect us successfully. It is my privilege to share this flight with someone who showed such extraordinary knowledge, courage, and selflessness. The entire cabin erupted in applause that continued for several minutes as 287 people expressed their gratitude to the young girl who saved their lives. Emma accepted the recognition with quiet dignity, understanding that heroism is not about seeking praise, but about rising to meet challenges when they come. As the Boeing 777 touched down safely at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, Emma looked out the window at the F-22 Raptors escorting them to the gate as an honor formation. She knew that somewhere up in those cockpits were pilots who understood and respected the Rodriguez family legacy that she carried forward into a new generation. The quiet kid in seat 17A had turned out to be anything but ordinary, and her actions during one terrifying afternoon had honored the military aviation tradition that ran through her bloodline like a river of courage and expertise. Colonel James Viper Rodriguez would be proud of his granddaughter, who proved that legends can be born in the most unexpected places. As passengers left the plane, many stopped to shake Emma's hand, hug her, or simply say thank you one more time. She accepted their gratitude graciously while remaining the polite, thoughtful child she was when the flight began. The only difference was that now everyone knew what was always true, that appearances can be deceiving and that heroes come in all ages and sizes. The story of Flight 847 would become legendary in aviation circles. Not just because of the successful defense against hostile aircraft, but because it showed that knowledge, courage, and quick thinking can come from the most unlikely sources. And somewhere in the Pentagon, military commanders would add another chapter to the Rodriguez family story, the day that Viper's granddaughter proved that excellence runs in families and that legends never really end.